Francis Ngannou versus Junior Dos Santos at UFC on Fox. UFC on ESPN3. And this fight was supposed to be at UFC 239, and it moved to UFC on ESPN3. And I think it's a good move from UFC because UFC 239 it was stacked. It was already stacked even without Francis Ngannou versus Junior Dos Santos. But I make UFC reaction videos, and for me, it's very tiring if one card has so many big fights. So even without Ngannou versus Junior Dos Santos in UFC 239, it's still fucking stacked. So I think it was a very good move for me. So let's talk about the fight. So Ngannou versus Junior Dos Santos, it's a very, very good fight. It's two knockout artists and two of the hardest punchers in heavyweight, UFC heavyweight division, and it's a fight that I've been looking for quite some time, and so let's talk about it. So before I go on to prediction, I'll talk about each fighters, and so let's talk about Junior Dos Santos. Junior Dos Santos has very good knockout power, as we all know. He's a very good knockout artist. Like in his prime, still he does knock out people like Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa, but in his prime he used to fucking kill everybody. Frank Mir, Cain Velasquez, Shane Carwin, Roy Nelson, Gabriel Gonzaga, Gilbert Ivel, Mirko Krokop, Stefan Struve, Fabricio Verdum. He used to maul everybody, but now I wouldn't say he's out, but he's not in his prime for 100% because of all the damage he took. So let's talk about the damage he took. Like in his prime, he didn't take too much damage. Well, he did take damage because he used to leave his chin open. But back then, he used to fucking destroy everybody. So he didn't get punched that much. But ever since he met Cain Velasquez for the second time, like he got mauled by Cain Velasquez in his fight against him in the second time. And then the Mark Hunt fight, he did win. And then the third Cain Velasquez fight, he got mauled again. And then after the third Cain Velasquez fight, he was never the same. He was slower. He can't take big punches anymore. But still, he was still an animal. Like the first fight between him and Stipe Miocic, he took all the shots from Miocic, and Miocic doesn't fuck around. He hits hard. Like he hits very, very, very hard. But in the first fight, he was able to take all the punches from Stipe Miocic, which tells me that he still had his chin. And then the next fight against Alistair Overeem, very, very skilled kickboxer. He got TKO'd. And then, which is never good. And then against Ben Rothwell, he did win, but he did get punched a couple times. And then against Stipe Miocic, the second time, he got knocked out. And then this told me that he lost his chin, because I wouldn't say like he lost his chin, but it says his chin is deteriorating. Because in the first fight against Stipe Miocic, he got punched for 25 minutes, but he was okay. He was dazed, but he wasn't never like hurt really bad. But in the second fight against Stipe Miocic, every punch that Stipe Miocic threw at him, he was getting hurt. So his chin is definitely deteriorating. And then after that, I thought Blagoy Ivanov was gonna knock him out because he just got knocked out. But he took shots against Ivanov and he won the decision. And then the next fight, Tai Tuivasa, I thought he was dangerous in this fight. But after watching him fighting Tai Tuivasa, after watching Tai Tuivasa able to connect on Junior's chin over and over and over against the fence, like he connected some heavy shots, but Junior was able to take him, which tells me that Tai Tuivasa is not the hardest puncher. And then the next fight, Derek Lewis, I think just on skill set, I think Junior is like leaps and bounds above Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis is skilled. He is a skilled fighter, but I think he's able to win the fights because of his power, not just because of his skill set. I think he's a top level fighter, but I don't think he's a championship caliber fighter. So I thought Derek Lewis was gonna win, not because he's more skilled, but because of his knockout power and the fact that Junior leaves his chin open against the fence. But the thing was, Derek Lewis was very. He wasn't very offensive. He was defensive, and when you're defensive against Junior Dos Santos, you are fucked. And Junior Dos Santos advantage of it, took advantage of it, and he TKO'd Derek Lewis. So, but he took a lot of damage in his fight. But still, very good chin. Still very good, which tells me that he was born with a tremendous chin. And he's got a good takedown defense. As we know, the only guy who was able to maul him was Cain Velasquez, and Cain Velasquez is a monster. So, getting mauled by Cain Velasquez doesn't mean that you have a terrible takedown defense. So, against Ngannou, I think I don't think he has to worry about the takedown defense because Ngannou is a striker. So and another thing is he's not that good when he gets pressured. When he's the one who's pressuring, he's like an animal. He's a killer. But when he gets pressured, he's not good when he's going backward. Like he has some weapons when he's going backward, like the right uppercut and left hook when he goes back. But that's it. He's not so good when he's going backwards. And another thing is he's got very good cardio for a knockout artist. Like a lot of knockout artists like Conor McGregor or Anthony Johnson or those type of guys, they don't have good cardio. Like the genetics, they have power, but in trade they don't have the best cardio. But for Junior Dos Santos, for a guy who has ridiculous knockout power, he has very good cardio. So that's about it for Junior Dos Santos. So let's talk about Francis Ngannou, the beast. He has ridiculous KO power, knockout power, as we all know. Like he hits the hardest in UFC, harder than Mark Hunt, and I think he hits harder than what's his name, Rumble Johnson, and he has very good chin. And I'm saying he has very good chin because he didn't get punched that many times in UFC. Because he finishes everyone in the first round. But against Stipe Miocic, when he fought Stipe Miocic, he got countered with his strong right hand. Stipe Miocic, his best weapon is his straight right, and he got countered by Stipe's right hand, and he was dazed. Like when he got countered, he was dazed, but he was okay, which tells me that he's got ridiculous chin. Like Stipe hits hard. So I think his chin is very good, and he's incredibly strong. He's one of those guys who are just born with ridiculous power, like Yoel Romero. Of course, Junior Dos Santos is also born with ridiculous power, but I think Ngannou is a bit more powerful than like pure brute strength. I think Ngannou is more stronger than the JDS, and he has very good takedown defense. Against the Curtis Blades fight, he fought him twice, and both fights he defended the takedown very easy. And Curtis Blades is a very good wrestler. I'm not sure if Curtis Blades is as good as Cormier and Cain Velasquez, but he's a top tier wrestler. So the fact that he's able to defend the takedowns very easily from Curtis Blades, it means that he's got a top level takedown defense. And the thing is, Junior Dos Santos doesn't like to wrestle. He can wrestle, and he has wrestling in his arsenal, but he doesn't like to use it. He can do everything. Like he can submit people, he can knock people out, he can go to decision, he can maybe like embrace the grind like wrestlers, but he prefers to use his punches, and nowadays he's using his kicks, which would have been nice if he used the kicks in his prime, because the kicks he's using nowadays are lethal. But he's not using his wrestling. And Junior Dos Santos is not he's not the smartest fighter. Like he hits hard and he has good chin, but he doesn't have the best fight IQ. So I don't think Ngannou has to worry about JDS's wrestling. And Ngannou, he doesn't have the best cardio. He doesn't have the best cardio, but he can go 5 rounds. Like when he fought Stipe Miocic, after the first round, he was tired. He was tired, and he got wrestled by Stipe for another 4 rounds. But he never quit. Like guys like Anthony Johnson, it's either him fucking murdering his opponents or him getting choked out, and that's it. And Anthony Johnson, if he kills people, if he murders people in the first 2 rounds, he's a monster. He's a beast. But if he can't, he becomes a quitter. Like when he faced Daniel Cormier 2 times. So, but Ngannou is not a quitter. He never quit against Stipe Miocic. So his cardio is not the best, but he's not a quitter. So I think if this fight goes 5 rounds, he can hang in the fight for 5 rounds. I don't think he can be so energetic for 5 rounds, but I think he can hang for 5 rounds. So that's it. That's about it for Ngannou. So this is a 5 round fight. It was when it was in UFC 239 card. It was 3 rounds because it was not a main event, not a co-main event, not a title fight. So it was 3 rounds. But since it moved to UFC on ESPN 3, I think it's a main event. So it's a 5 round fight, which worries me a little bit because if it goes 5 rounds, it could go to JDS. But I don't think it goes past 3 rounds. I think Ngannou knocks out Junior Dos Santos because against Derek Lewis, JDS was able to outstrike him. He was a better striker, and he was able to hurt him on the body and then finally TKO him. But Ngannou hits harder than Derek Lewis. He's more offensive than Derek Lewis. Ngannou likes to sit back and watch how his opponents do and then counter. But he's more offensive than Derek Lewis. And he's takedown defense is better than Derek Lewis. He hits harder than Derek Lewis, and he's very accurate, very powerful, and he's very fast. His punches are like missiles. They're very accurate. He just throws it, and the punches finds his way, finds its home, and it lands. And I think that's what's gonna happen against JDS. I mean, JDS, he still has very good chin against mediocre punching power fighters like what's his name, Tai Tuivasa. But Ngannou hits on another level. So I think even one punch that Ngannou lands on Junior Dos Santos can hurt him really bad or knock him out even. But when Ngannou lands, I don't think JDS is going to be able to take those shots well. So I think Ngannou wins the fight. And also I think Derek Lewis, his power. I think Lewis's power is overrated. He hits hard, definitely hits hard, but I'm not sure if he hits harder than Stipe Miocic. Like there were many fights when Derek Lewis hit his opponents with power shots, but they were okay. And when Stipe hits his opponents, they all get wobbled. Like since ever he knocked out Arlovsky, he was on a tear. Like he one punch Fabricio Verdum, and he knocked out over, and he knocked out Stipe Miocic, and he's on a tear. And against Fabio Maldonado, very, very good chin. And the first left hook, he hurt him, and then the short right hand knocked him out. So I think Stipe hits harder than Derek Lewis. I think Derek Lewis is a little bit overrated, but this time Ngannou, it's a dangerous fighter, tremendously strong. I think this fight is gonna end in 3 rounds. I don't think it's gonna go further than 3 rounds, and I think Ngannou wins by TKO or KO. So I think the winner of this fight will definitely get the title, or should get the title shot, because Ngannou is ranked at number 2 and Junior Dos Santos is ranked at number 3, and Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic will be fighting each other again, and I think Ngannou and Dos Santos winner is gonna get the winner of Cormier and Stipe Miocic, or at least they're gonna get the loser of Miocic and Cormier. So I think that's what's gonna happen. I think Ngannou KOs Dos Santos. I think that's what's gonna happen. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.